today just a little bit, and it's big in the movie. You said throw out the feeling of eat less, exercise more.
Yes.
Just throw it out,
Throw
because
it
I
out.
know if I exercise, I feel better.
Oh, well, we're not saying that exercise isn't good for you. You know, as we say in the film a few times, exercise is good for your health. It's important. Students will do better academically with exercise. But the point is that we're not going to exercise our way out of the obesity epidemic. And you know, the idea that it's about diet and exercise is really marketing sort of disguised as science. Because as you saw, there just aren't enough hours in the day to be able to exercise all that off. Are you taking questions? Because there's...
Yeah, we're gonna take questions in a minute, okay? I just want to say, were you shocked, as I was shocked, when I went to school way back when, there were no fast food restaurants selling their food in the cafeterias. I recently, every year they make me principal for a day at certain schools. Of course, I'm the funny principal. But in Palm Springs, look at the schools that I visited, they have salads. I don't know if it's because of the day that it's really healthy stuff. There's no fast food. We didn't have soda machines growing up, you know, when I was in school. That was unheard of.
We had vending machines in my school.
We
You know,
didn't
school
even have
lunch
that.
was always gross. I think we might be a different generation.
Yes, I have to say yes.
We
I'll let you get away with that.
Thank
yeah.
we did they even have soda back then?
Yes,
No, I'm just teasing.
I know. And then we had Tab.
You tap. Oh yeah, good times. You know, listen, it varies very much state by state and school by school. But even the ones that don't have fast food, you know, Maggie was really egregious that they had McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, you know, that it rotated every day of the week. But even the ones that don't, I saw that they were still like serving Domino's. You know, I think my school at least made their own pizza.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's still, we're not serving our kids the very best that we could. And we, you know, at the end, it's a very brief clip, but you saw a woman, she says, you know, by serving the local beans, we save for $4,000. There's this program, Cook for America, and she goes into schools and she teaches them how to cook with their existing equipment, because a lot of schools don't have the right equipment anymore. But even if you just have a microwave, she shows them how to cook from scratch meals on the existing school lunch budget. So it's very possible to
You can do
serve.
it.
Yeah.
So in other words, the solution seems to be to stop eating processed foods.
Yes. Very
And eat
easy.
real food.
Yeah. Easy solution, right in your kitchen.
Easy. Okay, I live alone. You want me to be in the kitchen all day?
No, okay, again, the
Yeah.
idea that it takes a long time to cook or that it's more expensive is again a marketing claim. So the other day I have a newborn, I've been on the road a lot, and I was exhausted and didn't feel like cooking, and I was like, I have this secret stash of frozen pizzas. They're organic and
Right.
whole grain, but still frozen pizzas. And I was like, I'm just gonna throw in a frozen pizza. You know, and then I was like, well, it's gonna take me a couple minutes to preheat the oven and 15 minutes for the pizza to cook. I could easily just throw something together. So I think we also need to rethink what we define as dinner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm busy, sometimes it's scrambled eggs and kale. It doesn't have to be a 4-course meal. It doesn't all have to be from scratch. You know, again, scrambled eggs and kale is a spectacular
Mhm.
dinner compared to a frozen
I can
pizza.
do that. I can do that.
You can do that.
I'm shocked that there's sugar in baby formula.
I know.
That they get them hooked as soon as, you know, they're born.
I know, and it's, well, yeah, and it's the fourth ingredient. And I find that this idea of them hooking them when they're young very interesting, because when you hear the idea of nanny state and government shouldn't be telling us what to eat, you know, up until now the food industry has been telling us what to eat. And so when you addict kids at that age, there's already somebody sort of setting their palates, right? Because your palates get set for life, and it's very difficult to break those cycles. So it's an interesting little factoid.
Okay, who has a question? This is my Phil Donahue invitation.
Okay, oh yeah, great, I love it.
Actually, I look more like Oprah right now.
I'm just wondering where the
Sound like her,
idea
too.
came from, which I had heard all my life, that the calories, where you got the calories didn't matter. It was just, you know, you had to burn the number of calories you got, and then you'd be okay. So just reduce your calorie intake and everything would be taken care of, instead of what he was describing about the difference between the calorie from a nut and the calorie from a soda, how it does make a difference.
Yeah, so the all calories are created equal mantra started with the food industry. It slowly made its way out through marketing claims. And you saw this, you know, really take off in the early 80s, right, with the low-fat food craze, when, you know, and I don't know if you guys remember, but when Snackwells came out, we would just binge on them, thinking, oh my, I can eat all of these, they're not gonna make a difference. And so it became a great marketing claim because again, then the onus is on you. You're lazy, you didn't exercise them off. So, you know, a lot of times as you saw, they buy science, they influence science, but I think it just also, there's something, it becomes so ingrained in sort of the popular culture, because I still find it's hard for me to grab full-fat cream cheese. You know, if I want, I'm still like, oh, why wouldn't I get the low-fat? It seems so innocent. And you look at it, and when you compare the ingredients, the low-fat cream cheese has so many more ingredients than the full-fat cream cheese. And it's just, no, I find it ironic that when you're raised this way, even knowing the truth, it becomes really hard to sort of undo that popular thinking.
One more question. What is the number of ingredients that if it has more ingredients than 5 or something? You're
So
not
I try to buy things with less than 5 ingredients, but a better rule than actually counting the ingredients is don't buy things with ingredients you can't pronounce. Because for example, I bought a wonderful bread, it's fitness bread, and it has 6 ingredients, and it would have been foolish for me not to buy it because I knew every ingredient on there, I could pronounce them, they were all very natural ingredients. So the 5 one is a good one to start with, but overall, I mean, if the ingredients are kale,
If
avocado.
it's a made-up word, don't buy it.
Exactly, if it's a made-up word, is a better rule, I think, to follow.
We should shop at Whole Foods. Whole Foods is coming September 24th.
Yeah, they implied in the film that cheese was made from the fat from the
Yeah.
skim milk. Is there any cheese that's worth eating?
Yeah, so this is an interesting point, the cheese. I feel like I didn't do a great job as a filmmaker because our cheese segment gets, to me, misinterpreted quite often. We actually weren't saying cheese is bad. To me, the whole point of the cheese segment, and it's funny because we focus grouped this earlier and it came up a lot and we kept trying to tweak it to drive home this message, but I'm still hearing it now. The whole point of cheese was just to show how the USDA across the board has this rampant conflict of interest. And cheese was a great example of that. Cheese, generally, fine for you. And there was a great article that just came out in the Wall Street Journal taking a different angle, but also the same approach as the film of saying how and why we started demonizing fat when it's not really the problem. So.
Yeah.
I remember that song.
Anybody else have a question? I'll go here then.
What's your comments on the artificial sweeteners and stevia and equal and all that kind of stuff?
Great question, and that was the first question I had because I thought, well, I don't really eat sugar, I use agave. And I was sad to hear that sugar is sugar. Your body metabolizes it all the same. So, and as you saw, there was a graphic that showed that, even high fructose corn syrup and studies that compare high fructose corn syrup to sugar saw no difference. So, and the same goes for refined carbohydrates and starches, so the white breads, white potatoes, below the neck, it's all sugar.
Honey.
Now, keep in mind, right? Because, we're not going to go home and now suddenly be deprived of anything nice. Sugar in moderation is okay. The problem is, the point the film is trying to make is that you've been inundated with food claiming to be healthy that's not, right? These yogurts that are really a dessert. And these cereals, that you might as well have a candy bar instead. So it's the hidden sugars that you really want to look for. It's not so much about the teaspoon that you put in your coffee in the morning. If you, as a man, the American Heart Association says, consume 9 teaspoons. And a great rule of thumb, this changed my life early on, 4 grams equals 1 teaspoon. And that's a great way, because when you look at grams, you're like, oh, who cares about that? But then we were just on the plane, we were flying, and my husband showed me a yogurt that looked very healthy, right? Fruit, all natural, all this. And I said, there's 3 teaspoons of sugar in there, right? There was 12 grams. I said, would you really dump 3 teaspoons of sugar in? So for me, that teaspoon thing is just so much more clear. Again, grams, industry is an industry. Industry always fights when we want more clear labeling because grams are confusing. Who knows what a gram is?
Oh, first I want to say thank you for putting this together. And I'm actually a local high school biology teacher.
Great, I know this
And-
is a tool for you.
Yes, well, I actually wrote a course called Physiology of Digestion. I teach nutrition in high school.
Oh, awesome.
First of
You
its
should be up
kind
here instead
in
of
the
me.
Valley. And I show documentaries like this, Forks Over Knives, a lot of the other things. in 4 years, it changed many lives, parents' lives, families' lives, kids' lives. And something like this, again, is kind of a catalyst for change. And also what's happening at the schools, of course, the clusters of fast food restaurants around the high schools
Right.
is also an issue.
Yeah.
Because the kids, they just, especially the athletes that have to stay there till 9 o'clock at night, they're eating fast food.
Right.
So one of the things that we're trying to work on, even with the Clinton Foundation, is education. They've pulled health from all the schools as a graduation requirement now.
From all the schools here, or you mean nationally?
From here, and it's going more national because they're focusing on English and math, and they're taking health out of the schools. So, and PE.
And art.
So the kids are
And-
less active, and they're
Right.
not getting the education. And that's one of the things that myself and the kids we're trying to fight is the education and awareness. And that's what's changing lives at home. And that's what kids are shedding pounds, and their families are changing the way they eat because of awareness and education.
I'm so glad you said that, because when you make a film like this, it's really made to be a tool for people. And it's supposed to be sort of step one. I make the film, and now now you guys have to do some work. Now it's up to you to make sure that people see it. If you see this and you think, this really made me think about things, I can think of a lot of people that would think about, things differently if they could see that. That's where it has to be sort of a people's movement, where we say, I'm gonna send a quick email to 5 of my friends, just saying, I saw this film, if it's playing in your town, go see it, or sign up for the website. But it really needs to be an active participation with the audience and spreading the word, because it's an independent film. We don't have a big marketing budget, and so we're really reliant on word of mouth. And I say that not to shamelessly shill for my film. I say it because I do this for a living, because when I was a sophomore in high school, I saw a Diet for a New America, and it changed my life. It changed the way I ate, and I said I want to do that. So I really believe, and we really had kids in mind when we made it, in terms of wanting it to be appealing to kids. So I, would love it if you could organize at your school do a field trip here. And if you go to our website, you can see that you can buy group tickets. We also are, we have a resource where people can buy tickets for kids in lower income communities, and then, we'll bus them in so that they can see it. But it really, I want people to see this and be mad, that's why it's called Fed Up, it's because you should be fed up, and it's time to fight back, and, I hope real progress comes for this, so help.
What's the website?
FedUpMovie.com.
FedUpMovie.com.
Yeah, and right now we're doing a 10-day sugar-free challenge. So if you sign up, actually anytime you sign up, you'll get these daily emails with great tips. So of course, everyone's saying, can I drink? Can I do this?
Skinny vodka.
I'm very interested in how this project came about. How did it team up? How did the team form? Or, you said Katie Couric talked to you
Right.
and you're going to write the movie, but it takes a lot more than writing and so forth. So how did it get financed? How did the whole team kind of come together?
Yeah.
What's the backstory?
Okay. Oh, thanks. When you make social issue documentaries, people don't really ask you filmmaking questions, and it's so much fun to talk about. So I started my company, Atlas Films, with somebody that I grew up with from 4th grade on, who was fortunate enough to be very brilliant, and he sold his company to Yahoo for a lot of money. And he was generous enough to put up the initial seed money for the film. And then Katie started reaching out to people, and it took about 3 years for us, through various donations, and be glad you're not my friend, or I would have been knocking on your door. And then in terms of how the team came together, it was initially Katie and I, and then my team. I have an amazing producer who I produced my last film with. And
What was your last film?
my last film was Tapped, about the bottled water industry. Nice prop that we have up here.
I have not opened it.
And so then about a year in, I was sitting in Katie's living room floor. We were sort of laying out storyboards for the film, and we said, what's the goal? What do we want to achieve? And we said, we want this film to do for the food movement what An Inconvenient Truth did for climate change. And I said, well, why don't we call Lori David? You know, she produced An Inconvenient Truth. She had just put out a cookbook, so I knew she had sort of moved in the food direction. And we called Lori, and she was, well, we emailed Lori, and she was just, you know, over the moon and jumped right on board. And then Lori, I wish you could meet her, because you would understand, Lori is an incredible force of nature and has so much passion. So she dove in, and then, you know, here we are 3 years later.
Yes, I have a question. You don't spend a lot of time on this aspect of the problem in your film, but obviously our country will be bankrupted by the healthcare costs.
Yes.
And we just went through a healthcare overhaul, and that part of it really didn't come into the debate. And obviously it's not going to work if we don't do something about it. So I wonder if you could elaborate on that.
Sure. I mean, we have a few, as you know, I mean, we have a few bites in there, right? We say this will bankrupt us. 75 cents of every healthcare dollar goes to preventable diseases. So we have a few bites. It ends up just being, you know, the nature of filmmaking is you start with a 4-hour cut and you say, where can we weed, right? Where can we kind of pare things down? And what's going to feel cinematic versus feel like you're watching 60 Minutes or 2020. Great shows, but not why you pay money to go to a theater. So, you know, I felt like we made the point, right? We say this is going to bankrupt us. We show that it costs $147 billion to the country. And then, you know, how much dwelling on it could we really do? So I felt like, you know, I obviously would love to do, you know, you could do a whole film on how it's bankrupting us and how it's affecting healthcare. But we gave it its nod, and then really just for timing's sake, kind of had to move on.
Why wouldn't Mrs. Obama speak to you? Because at the end it said, I could understand Coca-Cola and Kraft saying, you know, like Blackfish, they couldn't get, you know, SeaWorld to talk. But I was surprised because Mrs. Obama comes off very nicely in this movie.
Oh, you think so?
I thought she came off pretty well.
I mean, I thought I was very fair to Michelle Obama, but I'm getting a lot of slack hearing that we really beat her up. And I actually don't think we did at all. I thought we did.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think you beat her up.
No, not at all.
I should tell her this because I think people think that we were really tough on her, and I thought.
Hello, Michelle.
Did you call Michelle?
Yeah. Hello,
Movie
Michelle.
I'm really glad to hear that, though, because
No,
I do think that she's done more than any administration.
And that's what the movie showed, I thought.
Right.
Thank you, that was my intention, but let me just tell you that I've gotten some calls saying, what do you have against Michelle Obama?
Well, then they're way
Well,
out
that was a
there.
Republican,
Well-
don't worry about
Here's
it.
the movie gal.
Hi, I'm the Palm Springs movie gal. My question was actually just stolen by Bill about Michelle Obama. I have another question. Has anyone in the press actually asked her why she refused to talk to you?
I haven't seen that yet, and not to my knowledge. I do, you know, when she declined, they were very gracious, and they said, we have a blanket policy, we don't do documentary films.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're the first lady, you can break that policy. I think you probably have control over doing that. I think it's a shame that she didn't participate.
Yeah.
But I hope that they see the film, and I hope that they see this as a vehicle to, you know, elevate her platform, and that they'll want to participate. I hope she thinks I was fair as well.
Yeah, this gentleman.
Whole bunch of filmmaking questions here. Do you and the writer have a news background? How long did it take you to shoot all of this? What did you use to shoot it? How did you edit it? And a legal affairs question, that you used a lot of commercials.
Yeah.
Obviously, you used them without permission.
Right.
Have you gotten any calls from attorneys?
Okay.
Just a few movie questions. Just a few questions.
Tell me if I miss any, but we shot over the course of 3 years. We shot on the Canon 5D primarily. Nothing really original. We used all the commercials under the fair use doctrine, which is sort of covered in documentary filmmaking and news, that if you use something in, you know, that's out in the public sphere to further your story because it's news related, you are allowed to fairly use that.
Even in documentary?
Even in documentaries. I do have a news background, which is why I'm able to really milk the fair use doctrine, because I did a lot. I started at ABC working for Primetime Live and 2020, and then I worked for, wait for it, Bill O'Reilly
Okay, we're going to forgive you.
for 2 years. Don't hold it against me.
Well, know your enemy.
Will he see this movie?
Bill will not see this movie, but he did have Katie on his show tonight. We can't keep Bill's attention that long for stuff, but he was very fair on her, and actually he would, knowing Bill, he would actually agree with far more than you would think he would with this film.
Should I come away from this movie empowered, that I have to change things. I also come away a little depressed because I'm up against these huge food company lobbies that, you know, the people from Coca-Cola could actually sit in front of this Congress and say, it's perfectly healthy. It's one, just like the cigarette people did.
Right.
So do we have to like work against Coca-Cola and put those labels on the cans and make sure soda's not in the schools? I mean, it's
Listen.
depressing.
Yeah, you could, see, I don't look at it as depressing. I look at it as a great opportunity. I think democracy is a participatory sport. And I think that we've gotten, just my personal opinion, I think people have gotten a little too comfortable in thinking that somebody else is going to take care of us. And now when you see that 68% of the population is overweight or obese, I would hope that while it is depressing that those are the stats, it needs to make you angry enough to say, I guess we all have to do something. And it can be as little as voting with your fork every day and not buying these things, but I hope it's a little bit bigger. I hope that, you know, this film really starts a movement.
It's also, but what's depressing is seeing 15-year-olds weigh 400 pounds.
Well, it's
that
criminal.
wasn't,
It's criminal.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's criminal, and that's the legacy that we've left them, right? By us thinking, well, somebody else is going to take care of the problem. So I think, you know, it's time that we all get fed up and we all do something about it.
Great film, thank you for that. I'm just kind of curious, is it too early to know anything about the families following up on those 4 or 5 kids who we saw?
So they just, we just had them out for the premiere in New York, and most of this was all new information to them, right? Because we followed them and we stayed uninvolved. We got involved with one family, Brady, who you saw, who gained the weight back. Dr. Hyman went and visited them, and I can tell you that to date, Tina, the mother, has lost over 100 pounds.
Wow, good for her.
And she's not dieting, she's just eating real food. So why has Brady gained the weight back? Well, this is where you hear about the environment, right? That, you know, when it was during summertime when they started eating real food and he dropped those 27 pounds. When he went back to school, they had a fundraiser and asked him to sell candy bars. And Brady also happens to live in a food desert with very few options, and when he needed to get a job to pay for school, he had to get a job at Bojangles, which is a fast food restaurant, given the limited resources. So, you know, food addiction is a real thing, and battling that environment, he has lost. We have great hopes for him. Some people, after seeing the film, put together a little scholarship for him, so hopefully he can get out of Bojangles and focus on eating well and, you know, education.
How about the other kid, you know, like the girl that...
Yeah, what about the girl who keeps exercising and nothing happens?
So we don't know what's going to happen, right? Because she literally saw the film for the first time last week. So it'll be really interesting. Now, when I saw her at the premiere, she looked pretty much the same. She hadn't gained weight, but she hadn't lost weight. She is 3 years older, so I think it's, you know, somewhat encouraging. She's a little bit taller. Her hair's a lot longer. But it'll be interesting. I spoke to her mom, and she said, you know what I couldn't believe was in the scene where you're showing how much sugar they eat every day, she goes, you know, I thought that Nutella that I gave her as a snack was like a little treat for the day. You know, her one treat of sugar. Not realizing that by breakfast, she'd already maxed out what she should be consuming in sugar. So I found that really interesting to hear, because when I saw her giving her Nutella, I thought, Maggie's so clearly overweight. Why would you ever give her Nutella? And then when I heard her say that, I was like, that makes sense. You know, she doesn't want to give her body image issues either. So it was interesting to hear that little light bulb. But yeah, I can't wait to hear what happens to them now.
What about the boy who had the operation?
You know, maybe for your website, you know, sometime in the future.
Do some follow-up, yeah. I'm going to do that, yeah, because I'm so eager to hear. And Joe, who had gastric bypass, he has now lost 100 pounds. But, you know, like, I so hesitate to say that, because like that should not be seen as a success. I mean, I'm so glad he did that, but what does it say about us as a society when a 15-year-old has to resort to, you know, mutilating procedures?
Quote the easy way.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's so not easy, to
It's
be
not,
fair.
yeah.
You know, I know we really struggled with putting in the film because it does, I know people see it as easy, but he went a year of counseling to do this, and he had to lose weight to do it, and he had to go to nutrition classes, so it isn't exactly an easy way out either.
Question here.
Do you think there's an interest or an opportunity to explore the idea of, during the 70s was also the women's movement?
Yeah, that's great.
And by choice, we didn't have children. And all of my friends who do have children grab the chicken McNuggets out of the freezer, give it to them, and then they sit down and eat because it's fast and it's hurried and they're both working. And I see it as, this was not my household or my mother. So I correlate that there's all these great things that happen to us as women, but there's also been, the kids have been the side effect of what not being able to do it all has been. Because it seems to me that there was a meal, they cooked, it was not processed. We had a 6-pack of Coke, and it had to last 4 people a week. So that's what it was during the 70s. So I'm just wondering if you think there's an interest in that, because I think it's one big failure of the family. And it's easy to say it's in the schools, but I think families have such a huge responsibility.
Yeah. So this is interesting, and this was, early on a really big part of the film that I unfortunately had to cut. But Mark Bittman tells a really interesting story about, following World War II, when women were taken back, filled the job space and then were thrown, back into the kitchens, that there was some resentment, right? They had gotten this taste of freedom and being a part of something, and wanted to go back there. And Swanson dinners, frozen dinners came out, and they seized upon this idea of, you have more important things to do, right? Have it your way. And they, fed on that idea that, I shouldn't be cooking, and that cooking was somehow demeaning, right? Or it was just women's work. And I had in Canada, an interviewer said to me, aren't you worried about what you're going to do to the feminist movement? Aren't you essentially saying we should put women back in the kitchen? And I said, I'm saying we should put everyone back in the kitchen. Absolutely.
And that was reflected.
It was?
Yeah, it was reflected in the end when you saw everybody
cooking, yeah. I think, and my dad's a chef, so the whole idea that it's women's work is very foreign to me, because my dad cooked exclusively for us growing up. But I think, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, and I sort of lost myself in it, but I think it's, the marketers really sort of prey upon our vulnerabilities. So when this idea comes out that you deserve better, right, then it suddenly becomes demeaning to cook. And I think it starts a trend versus being really proud. I do think we're shifting the other way. I think cooking's kind of become cool again with the Food Network, and people are foodies and all of that. But I think we got a little hoodwinked for a while. So hopefully we're waking people
We have a
up.
question back here.
One time I had a weight issue. I decided to finally do something about it. Lost 35 pounds of the weight initially before going to my nutritionist. But she also helped me lose another 35.
Wow, congratulations.
It's just, and I know what you're talking about with the food and everything, but there's so many different things that we can do out there, but no one wants to listen to anybody. And the kids upcoming today have no worth ethics. They look at the way of I want the pay, but I don't want the work. But no one listens to anybody these days. They're all to themselves. The question I have, I was even watching the Katie Couric show last week, and which brought up this movie. I go online looking for any theater in the area and found out there was only one out here that showed that movie. So I called my parents' house. They cannot find a theater in their area that even carried the movie. And now they want to see what I'm going to see tonight. So I'm buying the DVD
so I can take it back to them so they can see what I'm going through.
Where do they live?
San Bernardino.
We are expanding, and I'm not sure if we'll be in San Bernardino. First of all, I love this story, everything about it. Love the weight loss, love that you watched the Katie show, love how you sought us out. That's like incredibly moving, and thank you for sharing that. It is, you know, again, little movie, little marketing budget. That's why